Good morning, and thank you for joining us at this important meeting. Your presence, input, and vote are critical to the success of this church. Far and away, the most important highlight of the past year was our calling Steve Shipstead to be our senior pastor. You've already heard the details of that process. I'm not going to go through them again today. I will tell you that I've had the privilege of working with Steve one-on-one, in small groups and in larger groups, and he is quite extraordinary. He listens, he considers his responses, and answers in a way that is constructive and supportive. He is bright and experienced. He acknowledges, as he just did, the challenges we face to bring the church into the 2020s, and he is all in. It is clear that he loves this church and congregation deeply. We could not be more fortunate in our choice of a leader. Next, I want to assure you that the last year has been anything but business as usual. Saying we've always done it that way doesn't work anymore. And as Steve said, we've kind of been working in the basement. The Board of Trustees, working with Steve, is committed to 3 things. This is the most important thing that I have to tell you today. If you remember nothing else that I say, remember these 3 areas of focus: managing actively and responsibly, following principles of good governance, communicating with the congregation. I will repeat: managing actively and responsibly, following principles of good governance, communicating with the congregation. None of these has been done as well as it should have been for the last several years, and that has led to some dissatisfaction and distrust. Let me give you some examples of what we're doing. Managing actively and responsibly. The staff members now each have SMART stretch goals against which they will be measured. They are having comprehensive performance reviews with Steve. We have enhanced procedures for reporting and monitoring business expenses and staff time. We have moved a long ways towards zero-based budgeting and eliminated undefined funds from the letters of call. Following principles of good governance. We have been auditing the church financials annually and plan to continue to do so. In accordance with recommendations from our auditors, we have added some controls to protect both the church and Tony Fisher, our financial administrator. The semi-monthly payroll is now approved by the treasurer and not by Tony, who prepares it. Checks are signed by 2 members of the finance committee. Tony prepares the checks but no longer signs them. We are going to update the letters of call for the ministers annually. We are focused on approval levels for all actions. The most recent area which we recognize needs a governance policy is the expenditures of the Refugee Task Force. Communicating with the congregation. There has been a summary of every Board of Trustees meeting in the messenger, including what we are talking about and votes that we take. I have been reporting to the congregation in the sanctuary about every 6 weeks to provide more insight into the management of the church. We have started reporting the church's financial position quarterly instead of just annually. And we have also invited the congregation to submit questions to the trustees or finance committee at any time. Moving to other accomplishments over the past year, based on the mission study team report, we have formed the 4 task forces you just heard about to come up with recommendations to revitalize the church. The communications task force is already meeting. The mission, adult spiritual formation, and children, youth, family ministry task forces have been formed and will be reporting out regularly. We are seeking guidance from 2 experienced consultants. We have already hired an operations consultant who really impressed the personnel committee with her experience and approach to help us become more effective and more efficient. She's already at work. Tomorrow, we're interviewing a consultant who has had terrific success growing children, youth, family ministries. We are optimistic that she will help us revitalize this crucial area. This is a time to invest in Piedmont Community Church, not a time to cut back. Cutting back, as you heard earlier, will only lead to continuing decline. Thankfully, we are in the unusual position of having resources left to us by families who want the church to flourish. We can use these funds to invest in growth. You will hear more about this shortly when we discuss finances. This is a process that will play out over time with short, intermediate, and long-term goals. There have already been many changes in the area of responsible management, good governance, and communication. Task forces are underway with reports later this year. The feedback from consultants will lead to more changes that will enhance our future. There will be much to report at next year's annual meeting and those that follow. What is happening is exciting. We are very optimistic about our future and hope you will join us on this journey with your time and treasure. Now I would like to talk about the proposed changes to the bylaws. The bylaws are supposed to be updated every other year, but because of the pandemic in 2020, that didn't happen, so we're still working with 2018 bylaws. All the proposed changes have been available online for the last few weeks. There are two main areas in which changes are proposed. The first is allowing the Board of Trustees to be expanded from 12 to as many as 16 when it will promote continuity and effectiveness. This year, we had a record number of trustees scheduled to leave the board. This board has been so active and accomplished so much that we do not want to lose that experience and momentum. With just a little arm twisting, all the existing trustees have agreed to return, with the exception of one, and he will be staying on his committee. In addition, we are adding 4 trustees, 1 to each committee, to ensure continuity in the years ahead. The second area in which we propose changes is to allow online or electronic meetings, aka Zoom, and electronic votes. This has been essential over the past couple of years, and we want to make sure that the bylaws are actually providing for this kind of work. Are there any questions about the proposed changes to the bylaws? I know it's not the most exciting topic. Then I would like to ask for a motion to approve the changes as proposed. And a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, signify by saying nay. Excellent. Thank you for your kind attention. Our treasurer, Kathy Kelleher, will now go over financial information. No, you got to come up here, and you have to take your mask off. Do you want me to? You want to copy the slides? I can give you copies.
That'd be great. Sorry, getting organized. I think I can see it. Well. Okay, so I really can't see that, but I'll go for it. So we have a larger budget this year that's proposed at $2.32 million, and we're, as Pat mentioned, some of those increases. Well, we have to stewardship has to raise another $150,000 that they increase their goal. As well as we're moving some money over from our balance sheet to use it's those lovely families that have donated for things like this, Christian education and non-Mexico missions, and then hiring somebody to consult us with operations. And then let's go to the next slide. This is that we're going to show you actuals through March. Yeah. Oh, okay. We're going to show you actuals through March when we go to the next slides. And if anybody didn't see the annual report that has been online, I did put a few copies in the back, and if you have questions later, please feel free to call me. On our income side, or where we're getting our money, contributions, Mexico missions, facilities like weddings, and we have preschools that pay rent, and then reserve transfers, and I think you can go grants and all other. So hard to see. The next slide shows revenue by source throughout the years. Keep in mind that we're just showing through March of this year, and then our budget. Next slide. And this is contributions by source. Next slide. This is where we spend our money. The biggest one being compensation. And this one, I think, again, expenses by source. Next, Michael. And this is the benefits and compensation and benefits of each of the, this is the salaries. In the next slide, I think, benefits. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. This is really hard for me to see. I apologize. If anybody has any questions as we go through this, please feel free. Michael, next. Yeah. And that's, okay, that's great. That didn't show up on this. I think that's it. It didn't show up well on this. Yeah.
I just want to make one comment because it's something that people ask about fairly often is compensation as a percentage of the budget. And ours comes in, I think it's at 58%, something like that. And anything under 60% is actually quite reasonable. It's a, this is a personal service organization. We don't have production machinery and tanker trucks and things like that. We have people, and that's why most of our budget goes to our people. I'd like to, if there are no questions, are there questions of Kathy or me? Yes, Connie. Okay, so last year in the stewardship campaign, the one we did earlier this year, and this will happen again in this coming year, we have given people the opportunity to make transitional gifts. In other words, not increasing their pledge forever, but just saying, okay, I understand it's a time of transition in the church, and therefore I'm going to take a little bit of that money that I was going to leave to the church when I died or whatever, and I'm going to give it to the church now. And we've called those transitional gifts. Does that explain it? Yeah? Okay. Any other questions about finances? It's complicated and it's messy, and please, if you do have questions when you get home or any other time during the year, contact Kathy, contact me, we'll sit down with you. Or Jan. Yep, Jan, she knows all this stuff inside out. Yeah. Okay, if there are no questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the budget as presented. Second? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay? Great, we have a budget. Okay, now we're going to go into some committee reports. Bob, I think we start with you.
I think I can project enough that everybody can hear me after there. Come on up there. Okay.
You got to take your mask off, too.
Now it's going to be really loud. Hi. Everybody, knows what the deacons do. We are the group of people that help do the service here.
We are the group of people that help do the fellowship of the church. We are on from mission. We've got people from the deacons on the MAT team that performs the vetting of our mission partners, looking for new mission partners. And the outreach committee does the things like our Christmas giving, our Christmas boxes and things like that. So it's all in the annual report. I won't go over all of that, but those are the highlights of what the deacons do. If there are any questions, please, contact me, my co-chair, Suzanne Latham, and we will be happy to give you any information or answer any questions that you do have. Right now, are there any questions? Great, thank you.
Whoa. Uh-oh. That last step. Yikes. Yeah. Is Steve Center here? Oh, good, Steve. Watch all these little steps.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I've done this before. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Steve Center. I've been serving on the Buildings and Grounds Committee for the last 3 years. And the nuts and bolts of what we've been up to in considerable detail is in the annual report. So I won't dwell on that. You can read it. Or if you haven't read it and read it and have questions, don't hesitate to email me or call me, and I can give you all the detail you want and more, probably. Working with the Board of Trustees this year and for the past 3 years has been an absolute revelation to me. It has been one of the great joys of my life, one of the tremendous learning experiences, and I really have to tell you, this Board of Trustees that we've had for the last couple of years has been phenomenal. The number of things that we've accomplished in this church in a very short period of time is extraordinary. Going forward, the Buildings and Grounds Committee will be fully staffed with 3 active members, and I will be ex officio. I've got a couple of projects that I want to pursue in the coming years, which will hopefully feed into what the Buildings and Grounds Committee and the church at large can do. It's come to the point where, and I point this out in our annual our annual report, that the church physically has come to a point where we need more than routine maintenance. We did a major rebuild of the church some 17 years ago, and the architect for that rebuild, Vicki Kendrick, is a current member of the Buildings and Grounds Committee. And it's become obvious that there are large, physical and systemic issues that the board needs to address, the church together needs to address. So I'm currently doing a search for, there are companies who do these property assessment, overall property assessment reports. So I'm looking at various proposals to hire one of these companies to come in and do a full-on assessment of everything in the church, nuts and bolts, ceiling, roofs, walls, windows, foundations, structures, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, whole works, and then to be able to prioritize that and put some numbers on what it'll cost to bring things up to current standards and easily maintained standards. So that's what I have to offer. Are there any questions that I can answer right now? Jeff.
Could you give a few examples of current major structural changes that need to be made?
I can't be real concrete yet because we don't have that assessment report. But a big project that's coming up that we do know we need to address is I call it the church tower up here above the narthex. which in that huge rainstorm last winter, for the first time in my memory, caused the roof of the narthex to leak on Sunday morning on top of everybody that was coming in. We've had a couple of roofers go up there and look at it. They did re-roof that section, but the roofer said, you know, you really can't guarantee that that's going to solve the problem, because the problem is actually occurring because of the rot and the decay of the moldings and the decorative fixtures up there. So we've had one contractor look at that, and we'll have a couple other contractors look at it. So that's going to be, you know, a huge and visible project. Hopefully it won't be as, we'll see. I mean, they're going to have to put up scaffolding, but you know, it'll be at least of the scale of what we did in the courtyard to repair all that dry rot and the decorative moldings, but it'll be up high. So, other questions? Okay, thank you. Yep.
6. He got. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Is Lyle Johnson here this morning? Nope. Okay, we'll skip that. Donnie, you're up. Stewardship.
Pat, in lieu of Lyle's absence, if there's any questions regarding the tuition education report, you can contact either myself or Leslie directly.
Great, thank you.
I know what it is. Good morning. The theme of our stewardship campaign this year was Will We Grow? And I think you know the answer to that question. It was a resounding yes, so we should all give ourselves a hand. The theme this year, it was tied into the Grace, Gratitude, and Generosity sermon series we went through, where we took a deep dive into those topics, and we were challenged to think about how we could grow in all of these areas. Well, your generosity was abundant. Thank you so much. You know, your support. I have to say, I was so moved by Steve's sermon this morning, and so many things that he said certainly tied directly into our stewardship campaign. And I think that the results that we had this year are an early indicator that this is a new day at PCC, and we are seeing salt and light in our congregation. Let's go through the results. So we were faced with a tremendous challenge this year. Our budget called for a 27% increase over the prior year results, and we not only met that, we exceeded it. Last year we raised $746,000, and our budget this year was $950,000, and thanks to you, we raised $976,000. That's worth a round of applause for sure. As you know, the Stewardship Committee implemented a number of changes this year, including offering the opportunity, which we talked about, Pat talked about a few minutes ago, to make a special transitional gift. And we received 7 gift commitments in this category for $144,000. Another new element this year was we conducted a new event, a Commitment Sunday, where we had the opportunity to bring our gift commitments forward during the church service. If you were here that day or if you participated online, then you will know how incredibly moving it was to come together and show our support for the church in this way. And the effort was a big success. On that day alone, we received 63 commitments for $280,000. We also saw a tremendous number of new gifts, and we define new gifts as any donor that did not participate last year. 21% of our gift commitments were new, and that was 37 commitments for $156,000. You know, this is extraordinary. We haven't experienced this level of new participation in recent years, if ever. And in addition to the new gifts we received, 99 of our past donors increased their commitment over a prior year, and this accounted for $250,000 of the total that we raised. As you can see, while we raised more money this year compared to last year, we actually had fewer gift commitments. We got 177 commitments this year. We received 195 commitments last year. So there are 55 commitments that have not returned from last year, and there are reasons for this, including there are people who have passed away, there are people who have moved away, there are people who are no longer attending. However, there are still people who may want to give, and if you happen to be one of those people who haven't had a chance to give yet this year, I want to emphasize that it is not too late. So you can, as always, you can go online, you can mail in your gift commitment, you can call Tony Fisher, and we encourage you to do that because, as we've talked about today, there's so much we have to accomplish. We're investing in the church, and we need the support of every single person and family who's engaged in our church and what we're trying to do. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that we have the endowment. We have not had an endowment campaign this year, but we have the endowment as an opportunity to give. And you can actually designate your gift in several different areas if you wish to do that. So if you'd like to talk about endowment or want more information, feel free to contact me or Steve or members of the endowment committee we can put you in touch with. So to conclude, I just want to thank you again for your tremendous generosity. You're enabling our church to be a place where all of us can continue our walk with God, where we can fellowship together, and where we can begin to reach out to the world. I think that while this church may have been on the path to be a dying institution, I think we've turned that corner. I think the stewardship campaign shows those results, that we are on the right path, and we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of opportunity, but you are indeed, through the stewardship campaign, you've shown that you are being salt and light, and that it is a new day at PCC. So thank you.
Cara Basinger is going to talk to us about personnel.
Yeah. Thanks, Pat. Good morning. Very brief remarks on behalf of the Personnel Committee. Pat alluded to the fact that one of the foundational set of principles for the Board of Trustees right now is active management and good governance. And that's really what the Personnel Committee is all about. Our job is to provide additional resources to the church and to oversee matters of personnel, HR, and administration and operations, as those are all very, very much interwoven. We've done a couple of key things this past year, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are underway, some of which have been touched on already. First and most critical thing in this move towards a new day is effectuating the letter of call for bringing Steve in. It's been critical. It certainly felt like a new day, and we couldn't be more pleased. The second thing that we've been focused on to a great extent is really helping church leadership with the staff performance reviews that you heard about before, helping meet with staff and talk about SMART goals. Those were mentioned by Pat, but what that means is goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And we're asking staff to really think through what the functions they do, what tasks they do here in the church, and have them be SMART goals that align with the goals of our pastoral staff, that align with the mission of the church, so that we have the right people doing the right things in furtherance of our objectives. We've gone through, working with Steve to talk about job descriptions, and Steve's in the process of actively reviewing staff members, and we're editing job descriptions to make sure they reflect the realities of what's being done here, especially since we're post-COVID. It's a new day in that regard too, for better or for worse, and so really trying to get all of that right. We're also looking at letters of call and making sure that they are updated. Many of them haven't been updated in years to reflect current job responsibilities, current compensation and benefits, so that we have that right and so that it helps support the relationship with our terrific pastoral staff. We are blessed to have amazing leadership in this church, and we owe it to them to have their relationship with the church documented properly and maintained properly. You also heard a little bit about some of the consultants that we're bringing in. We're asking for outside help from people who are experienced in helping churches that are in transition, churches that are larger and by some measures more successful than ours, churches who are challenged in different ways, but trying to bring in people that have some fresh ideas that can help us look at our systems, at our structure, at our staff jobs, and look towards the future. And have us ask and answer the question, do we have the right support for what we're trying to do from a pastoral staff perspective and from a church mission perspective? So with that, I'll conclude. I'm happy to take any questions. If you don't have any today, I'm happy to answer them at any time. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to recognize those members of the boards who have completed their terms of service and will be retiring from the boards effective June 30th. And if you're present, would you stand? Retiring from the Board of Trustees is Steve Center. From the Board of Deacons is Bob Wright, Suzanne Latham, Ron Heckman, Janet Peterson, Katrina Bergen. And from the Christian Education Board, Lyle Johnson and Allison Clayshute. Can we thank these people for their service? So now we are going to elect new members to the Board of Trustees, the Board of Deacons, the Christian Education Board, and the Nominating Committee. And I apologize profusely that this information has not been in the annual report that's been circulated. This has been who's on first, what's on second, problem of getting all the names collected into the right place. But we are going to go through them here. We're going to show you both the people who are already on the boards with the year of their class, and then it will indicate where somebody is going to be newly elected to the board. Okay, Michael. So here's the Board of Trustees class of 2023. There are 3 ex officio members of the Board of Trustees. The immediate past president, in this case Jan Wolf, will be spending a second year in that capacity. The chair of the deacons and the chair of the CE board are also ex officio members of the Board of Trustees. Next slide, Michael. Oh, I was on the next slide. Okay. So yeah, here's the next year's class. And then the next slide are those people joining the board with their committee assignments. So in the case of the Board of Trustees, we actually have very specific functions, and so we look for people with particular skill sets to serve on buildings and grounds and personnel and finance and stewardship. Yes, he should be on there. Sorry, Bob. Bob Wright should be on here. He's moving from chair of the deacons to buildings and grounds, one big job to another. Okay, next slide. I think we'll move into the deacons now. And the next slide. So Bruce Wolf is one that we will be voting on. And the next slide. 4 new people coming on to the deacons. Okay, we move on to Christian education. Here's the class that will be in their 3rd year. Next slide. And the next slide. These are the ones we will be voting on. And the next slide will show the nominating committee. The nominating committee, we as a congregation elect 3 members at large, and then there's a representative from the trustees, the deacons, and the CE board are also on the nominating committee. And it is chaired by the person designated by the board of trustees. So these people we are voting on for 1-year terms. Are there any questions about nominees? Did you get a chance? Could you read them? Yeah? Okay. Is there a motion to approve these nominees to our boards? Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, say nay. Excellent. Okay. The proposed slates of candidates are approved, and thank you to all of those who are stepping up to serve in these important roles. Steve, I'm going to turn the rest of the meeting over to you.
You want to go over the task force?
No, I want you to do it.
Can you leave me the names? We have put together the task forces that we've talked about earlier today and are really excited about the people that have agreed to serve. There are some new people kind of to our church that have agreed to serve, and we're trying to get new people into leadership. So the first task force is the Adult Spiritual Formation Task Force, and some of you may not know what adult spiritual formation is because we haven't used that term very much, but it's basically helping people grow in their faith. And one of the things that I noticed when I got here was there weren't many opportunities for that here, and I just believe it so strongly that this is a big part of the Christian faith, is to keep growing and experiencing the transforming power of God in our lives. So we're going to take a look at what we offer presently and then what we will offer in the future, and especially with an eye toward people outside of the church who may want to participate in these kinds of classes. So we're really excited about that. Here are the people: Eric Behrens, Susie Skugstad, who just joined our church, Nancy Walters, who has been attending for about the past year, and Virginia Watkins, who has been leading a small group on Thursday nights. Kristen Johnson, who's been around for a while and has served in many ways. Ron Heckman, a guy named Don Ashburn, and Steve Shipstead. The next one is the Children, Youth and Family Ministries. Very excited too about these folks. Aaron Gore, Eric Basinger, John Mays, Margaret Hiller, Blair John, Scott Kale, Leslie Quant, Steve Shipstead. Very excited about this group of folks. And then our consultant will work with us with that task force as well. The next one is communications and outreach, which has already started, and we've been meeting for a number of months now. Tom Perry, Heather Shepard, who has just joined, was our one joining member last year. Mary Jo Cook, Sarah Hirsch, Tom Walter, Don Ashburn, Michael Barber, and Steve Shipstead. And then finally, mission, taking a look at how we do mission at the church, defining what it is, how we do it differently because of all the changes that have occurred in the world. So that is Mike Bandrowski, who has been very involved with Matt. In fact, many of these people have. Mary Fielder, Judy Wright, Christy Marcel, Lindy Lowe, Sui Lin, Ling, Don, and Steve. You can see that Don and I our lives. You know, Jesus said, "I have come that you may have meetings and have them in abundance." So we'll be meeting a lot next year. I'm telling my wife, you just know it's going to be a busy year, but hopefully we get these things launched. We wanted to jump right on it. So you don't have to vote on these. Any questions about these task forces, what we're doing, or any questions about who's on them? Yeah, Pat.
Is there a plan for people who want to have input in task forces coming to that or not?
There will be some for certain ones for sure, like the Children's, Youth and Family Task Force. We're definitely going to be talking to parents and the families of our church, as well as families outside of our church, trying to get kind of focus groups almost to come. But yeah, we're always open to, I mean, that's just a standing thing. How much we will, especially considering we just went through through that a year ago. We got a lot of information for the mission study. So, but good question. So the question was, are there avenues for additional input? And for sure, if you want to give us input, please let us know. Yeah, in the back. Will. Hi, Will. Sorry. Sure. Yeah, run up here. Oh, that's all right. Do I have to give over my space?
I need the microphone.
All right, go ahead.
I'll be brief, but I feel like I need to mention this because it's so important to me, and it's at the heart of where the church is going. Just the sermon today and all these other things are connected to it. I was so happy to see this effort for the mission task force. Why? When we look at the money going out, we have 5% for mission other than Mexico. That's pretty low, but it's also untrue. And we're in the process, this task force is going to define what we do for mission and service. And it's a lot more than this. Things like the alternative gift market organized by the church and raising, last year, I think $24,000 is not included here. Things like the Christmas gift, where we all put together and helped out the Presbyterian Church in Oakland, $20,000, not included in here. Things like the people going down and working last week, Don and the other people cleaning up those hours, 12 people times 4 hours, those 60 hours, not included in here. So I think the effort of defining what this all is, and that it's just not money, it's service. Because as we all know, the beauty of service is both to the recipients and the giver. I think the worst thing that could happen to the church is somebody won the lottery and gave us all this money and said, oh, we can all relax now. No. We benefit from service, from mission as well. And so anyway, I just felt the need to congratulate this effort. To me, it's one of probably the most important effort going forward is this task force. Is it still up there? Yeah, right there. So thank you.
Yeah, I will. We could talk about the lottery thing. That would be Here's what I'll say about mission. And here's a great way the world has changed. Before, mission was done so much through denomination. Really, one of the reasons we started denominations was to help with mission. And the local church could not communicate with their mission partners in Africa or Asia or wherever it may be. Now that's totally changed. We don't need a denomination to do that. We can email them. We can call them on the phone. So that's a big change. The other thing is the nature, just the idea of mission has changed so much. 100 years ago, when mission really became a huge part of the church, it was mostly us giving money to overseas missions. Surprising thing now, South Korea sends missionaries to the United States. So do you see the shift? The mission is not so much overseas, it's right here. It's right next door. Our culture has changed. We're in a post-Christian culture, have been for a number of years now. But do you see how that's changed the nature of mission? So then trying to determine how much money do we give to mission, I would say almost everything, if we are salt and light, like I talked about, remember salt and light, salt and light, salt and light. If we are salt and light, then almost everything we do will be mission. Do you see that? So it's a big question. It's a question I've had in every church I've served. How do you define mission giving? And Will brought up the questions. I will point out that our mission giving, actually the money that we budget to go out was raised from 15,000 to 40,000. 25 to 40. Okay. So that's good. And I hope to continue to raise that percentage because we just need to do that. All right. Any other questions? Great. Is that it then? Huh? Oh, yeah. I don't have the annual report with the names listed. Thank you. So, of course, these are the folks who we have lost this year. Do we have them listed in there? What is it, page 22? Okay. I got it. Okay, I got it. Okay, I'm going to say these names, and of course, these are people that you all know and have loved, and we will miss, but we rejoice in the hope of the resurrection. So Henry Kistler, Perena Fleming, Bonnie Steer, John Weaver, Jim Soper, Jürgen Kasprick, Lynn Olander, Gordon Skip Huber, Joan Metcalf, Walter Ruxton, and Suzanne Evans. God, we thank you for the lives of these saints, for the ways that they gave to our church in so many ways, and for the way that they loved our church and have loved you. And we trust that they are with you and now more alive than ever, and we thank you for the hope that we have in the resurrection. May the memories of these folks live in us and inspire us to live better lives. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. My remarks, I'm going to be brief. Salt and light, salt and light. Now I'm going to do some asks. As we move forward, first, thanks. I want to thank you for allowing me to serve you in this capacity. It's been a joy for me thus far, and I think will continue to be a joy. I am always grateful for significant work. It's a funny thing, because there was a period of time right after college when I was looking for work, and wow, it was tough when I graduated from college, and I did some really not real fulfilling jobs. And I think I learned from that it's always good to have something that you love and something that's significant in making a difference. So I'm thankful for this. I do believe what we're doing here is significant and meaningful. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to the Board of Trustees. They have been a joy to work with. And I don't know if I've ever experienced a board so united and so open to working hard and really called to make a difference. So I've really enjoyed working with the Board of Trustees, and most especially with Pat. Pat, you've been such a great partner. We've had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. We talk almost every day. If a few days go by without me calling Pat or she calling me, I'll call her and say, I miss you, Pat. Just check in and see how you're doing. But this woman has gone above and beyond and has really, and it's a really great leader, very good leader. So thanks, Pat. And thanks to the staff for welcoming me and being partners in crime. They're fun to work with. We are ready to go. And I think each one of us is really committed to helping the church move forward. So thanks to all of them, and then thanks to you for your generosity and stewardship and all of those. I mean, think of all the people that have signed up for pretty significant commitments for next year. Thank you to all of you. So thank you. The asks, I have 3 quick asks. Come to worship. I think it's just so important as when you feel safe to do so, and I don't want to pressure anyone to come that in person that doesn't feel safe yet, but when you do feel safe, don't be lazy. Don't sit in bed with your pajamas on and a cup of coffee, but come, because you know what? We are gathering people. That's what we have done for thousands of years, and it's the heartbeat of the church. So please, when this pandemic gets a little better, as it seems like it is, please come to worship on a regular basis. Be committed to that. Be committed to serving in some capacity. If you're called upon to do so, we are all gifted and called to serve, to build up the body of Christ. So when the call comes, at least prayerfully consider it. And thank you to all of you who have agreed to serve so far. And then finally, please continue to give generously. A growing church a thriving church is an expensive church. That's just the way it is. It costs more money to grow a church and to rebuild it. So please continue to be generous in your giving. And that's it. I'm done with my remarks. So, Dawn, you have the benediction.
Watch out. And now I get to be really tall here on the thing here. You know, thank you to everybody for being here today at this annual meeting. This is now for Scott and myself, I think this is our 19th annual meeting. As staff members here at Piedmont Community Church, we've been with a lot of you through a lot of wonderful, amazing things in our ministry and life together. We've been through tough times as well. The last few years have definitely been up and down in a lot of ways, but God's faithful. And I want to say that, you know, we, on behalf of the staff, have really loved welcoming Steve onto into the role of senior pastor. He's really leading us well, and I think is representing God's vision for our congregation very well and conveying it very well as well. So thank you to Steve for being a great addition to our staff and leader to our staff. I'm also noting that our staff has been kind of nameless throughout this meeting, so I want to mention the names of the staff at Piedmont Community Church. Aside from Steve and myself and Scott, Leslie Quant, Steve Main, Dottie Hutch, Michael Barber, Tony Fisher, Gene Leahy, Jay Foreman, Carol Leslie. Nick Baz was a former member of our staff who moved away this year. We had Catherine Vera Mendes. We've had all sorts of people who have worked diligently. And I want to thank all of you staff members who are here and watching online as well on behalf of our congregation. So let us close with the word, the good word, the benediction. God has called us to be what? Salt and light. And God has fed us at this table to go out and do it. So let's do this. Let's go out and be salt and light. Amen.